The jungle awakens as dawn breaks, its dense canopy filtering the first rays of sunlight into fractured golden beams. The air is thick, alive with the hum of unseen life. A lone figure stands at the edge of this sprawling wilderness, adjusting a worn leather strap of a backpack. His movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic, as he double-checks his equipment: a sturdy pair of boots, a rusted machete, and a camera that has seen better days. This is no ordinary journey. It is a mission laced with purpose and obsession. He is a man of quiet determination, drawn here by tales whispered among locals about a mythical tiger. The beast, known as the Phantom of Shadows, is said to roam this jungle unseen, a legend that has evaded hunters and photographers alike. For him, this isn't just about capturing an image. It's about validation, a chance to carve his name into a legacy passed down through generations of explorers. His father, a renowned naturalist, had once ventured into these very woods, only to return empty-handed. Now, it's his turn to complete what was left unfinished. The jungle stretches before him, vast and unyielding. It is both enchanting and foreboding, a realm where beauty and danger coexist. The narrator's voice, calm yet filled with reverence, reveals the man's inner thoughts. There's an unease that gnaws at him, a sense of being outmatched by the sheer immensity of nature. The locals had warned him before he set out. They spoke of eerie disappearances, of claw marks etched deep into trees, and of a growl so deep it seemed to reverberate through the earth itself. These weren't mere tales. They were warnings, ones he chose to ignore. With a deep breath, he steps forward, the ground crunching softly beneath his boots. Each step feels heavier than the last, as though the jungle itself resists his intrusion. The deeper he ventures, the more he senses the weight of unseen eyes watching, assessing. It is as if the forest breathes with him, a silent force enveloping him in its rhythm. The sunlight dims, filtered further by the dense canopy overhead. Shadows lengthen, and the calls of birds seem distant now, replaced by a suffocating silence. There is a moment of hesitation as he stumbles upon his first sign of the tiger. Deep claw marks run jaggedly across the trunk of an ancient tree. They are fresh, oozing sap like an open wound. He traces them with trembling fingers, his pulse quickening. This is no ordinary animal. Its presence is almost supernatural, as if the jungle itself has shaped this predator to guard its secrets. A distant roar splits the silence, low and guttural. It sends a shiver down his spine, a sound that is both a warning and a promise. He steadies himself, gripping the strap of his backpack tighter. This is what he came for, what he spent years preparing for. And yet, in this moment, standing at the edge of the unknown, he can't help but feel that the jungle doesn't just belong to the tiger, it is the tiger. The jungle comes alive in ways the man couldn't have anticipated. Each step forward feels like peeling back a layer of a living, breathing entity. Vines twist around ancient trees like veins, and the air is thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. The calls of monkeys echo from the treetops, their shadows flickering like ghosts as they leap from branch to branch. Birds with brilliant plumage flash through the canopy, momentarily painting the green landscape with splashes of red, blue, and yellow. The man moves carefully, his machete slicing through stubborn undergrowth. The physical effort is draining, but it's the mental strain that weighs heavier. Every crackle of a twig underfoot and every rustle of leaves feels amplified. He knows he's an intruder here, trespassing in a world governed by rules he barely understands. He pauses to study the ground. Tracks, faint but unmistakable, are pressed into the damp soil. They're enormous, paw prints far larger than he expected. They confirm he's on the right path, yet they also deliver an undeniable warning. He's entering territory where he does not belong. His breathing grows heavier as he navigates the jungle's labyrinth. A river comes into view, its waters running fast and clear. Crossing it seems impossible at first, the current too strong and the banks too slippery. But he spots a series of jagged rocks just beneath the surface. Carefully, he balances his way across, each step a precarious gamble. Halfway through, he slips, plunging one foot into the icy water. He pulls himself up quickly, heart racing. The jungle's silence is deafening, as though it's watching him, waiting for him to falter further. By the time he reaches the opposite bank, the sun is beginning its descent. Shadows stretch long and thin, and the jungle grows darker with each passing moment. He knows the danger of being out here at night, but the tracks are still fresh, urging him onward. His body protests every movement, muscles ache, his shirt clings to his sweat-soaked back, and his throat is parched. He forces himself to take another step, and then another. The mission outweighs the discomfort, even the fear. A sound snaps him out of his focus. It's faint but distinct, a low growl, deep and resonant, like the rolling thunder before a storm. His pulse quickens. He crouches instinctively, scanning the shadows, but there's nothing visible. The growl comes again, closer this time, and a chill runs down his spine. It's not just a sound. It's a presence, an invisible force that tightens the air around him. He steadies his breathing, gripping the camera around his neck like a lifeline. As the darkness deepens, he stumbles upon a tuft of fur caught in a branch. It's coarse, golden, and unmistakable. He holds it in his hand, feeling its texture. The fur is a sign, proof that he's closing in. But instead of satisfaction, an uneasy realization dawns on him. If he's this close to the tiger, then the tiger is just as close to him. The predator has been watching all along, and now it's only a matter of time. The clearing is sudden, unexpected, a break in the dense jungle, bathed in the silvery light of the rising moon. The air feels charged, heavier somehow, as if the entire jungle is holding its breath. The man steps forward cautiously, each movement deliberate, his senses sharp. He knows something is here. The feeling isn't instinct, it's certainty. His hand hovers near his camera, but his fingers tremble ever so slightly. Then he sees it. Emerging from the shadows, silent as the wind, the tiger steps into the moonlight. Its coat gleams, a vivid tapestry of black and orange stripes that ripple with each calculated step. Its size is overwhelming, larger than he imagined, every muscle coiled with power. Its eyes lock onto him, glowing amber like embers in the dark. They don't just see him, they pierce him, stripping away any illusion of control he thought he had. For a moment, the man forgets to breathe. The tiger moves closer, its massive paws making no sound on the soft earth. It's close enough now that he can see the slight rise and fall of its chest, the way its whiskers twitch as it sniffs the air. There's no mistaking its intent. This isn't curiosity, it's dominance, a reminder that he is nothing more than prey in its domain. The man's heart pounds in his chest, a frantic rhythm that feels deafening in the silence. He doesn't run. He knows better. Any sudden movement would be an invitation, a signal to attack. Instead, he forces himself to stand still, even as every fiber of his being screams at him to flee. The tiger circles him slowly, each step deliberate, its gaze never breaking. It's studying him, testing him. The air between them feels electric, charged with a primal energy that transcends words or reason. His hand moves almost imperceptibly to his camera. The action feels absurd, laughable even, in the face of such raw power. And yet, it's the only thing he has, the only way to capture proof of what is unfolding before him. He raises the camera, his movements slow and steady, careful not to break the fragile balance between them. The shutter clicks, a sound that feels impossibly loud in the stillness. The tiger flinches, just slightly, and its eyes narrow. For a terrifying moment, he thinks he's made a fatal mistake. The tiger stops its circling and faces him head-on. Its body lowers slightly, muscles tensing, as though preparing to pounce. The man's breath catches, his entire body frozen. But then, the tiger does something unexpected. It growls, not a roar, but a deep, guttural sound that resonates through the ground beneath him. It's not aggression, it's a statement, an acknowledgement of his presence and his audacity. And just as suddenly as it appeared, the tiger turns. With a final glance over its shoulder, it melts back into the shadows, leaving the clearing empty once more. The man doesn't move, rooted to the spot, the weight of what just happened crashing down on him. He exhales shakily, unsure if he's been spared or simply warned. Either way, he knows one thing with absolute clarity. This was no ordinary encounter. This was something ancient, something beyond him. The man stands alone in the clearing, the jungle now eerily quiet. The tiger is gone, its presence slipping back into the shadows, leaving him with nothing but the lingering weight of the encounter. His heart is still pounding in his chest, the adrenaline coursing through his veins, but now there's a strange emptiness. The mission isn't complete, and yet, in some way, it feels as though it has been. He looks down at the camera in his hands, the single image captured, a reminder of what just occurred. But it doesn't seem enough. Nothing feels enough. He begins the long trek back, each step slower than the last, the gravity of what he's experienced settling in. The air still smells of earth and dampness, but now it feels heavy with something else, something he can't quite name. The jungle feels different now, no longer just a wild landscape to conquer. It feels more alive, more personal. The man feels small, insignificant in its vastness. The tiger was a creature of the wild, a force of nature that had no interest in him beyond what he represented, an intruder, a fleeting moment in the jungle's long history. As he walks, he reflects. The tiger wasn't just a creature, it was a symbol of power, of freedom, of the untamed forces that rule the world without needing permission. The man came here seeking proof, seeking something to capture, to display. But in the end, he was the one who was captured. The jungle, the tiger, had shown him how small he really was. And yet, there was no anger in that realization, no regret. Just an overwhelming sense of awe. By the time he reaches the village, the sky is dark, the stars twinkling like distant, unreachable dreams. The sounds of the jungle seem to fade as he steps into the human world once more. He is greeted by the locals with cautious curiosity, their eyes scanning him, waiting for him to speak. But he doesn't have words for what he's experienced. How could he? How could anyone understand what it was like to face the jungle, to feel the presence of something so ancient and untouchable? They wouldn't understand the weight of the tiger's gaze, the challenge in its growl. They wouldn't understand the way the world shifted, even for just a moment. The man remains silent, letting the night settle around him. He knows he can never fully describe the experience to anyone, not in a way that would make them understand. The tiger's truth is a truth he now carries with him, one that cannot be captured in an image or spoken aloud. The moment belongs to the jungle, to the tiger, and to him alone. In the distance, the sound of the tiger's roar echoes once again, faint but unmistakable. It is not a threat, it is a reminder. The man closes his eyes, feeling the weight of it, knowing that the jungle will never truly release him.